This is a bonus episode. So, I just finished a 3-part series of episodes where I explored 3 topics. First, positioning. I had an episode with April Dunford. Second, strategic narrative. I talked to Andy Raskin. And finally, category design. And I talked to Josh Lohman. And you can listen back to those episodes prior to this bonus episode. I highly recommend them. So I hear these concepts being thrown around all the time, but I wanted to get to the heart of them. What are the key differences? When should you use one approach over another? And finally, what's my take? Which one do I think is actually the most helpful and why? So, in each episode, I actually went through each of these approaches and tried to apply them to my own business. And I wanted to share my thoughts on how that went. And this is where I'm going to cover like what's my take. So, let's first start by defining each approach. First, positioning. Positioning defines how your product is the best in the world at providing some value that a well defined set of customers cares a lot about. You focus on your differentiated value with your story. So the next thing is category design. Category design seems to almost like fall under positioning. There's the existing category that you're playing in versus a new category when the existing category doesn't fit. And this is what I've heard from startups that are using this approach, a lot of them that have come on to this podcast, actually, including Gradient Works, Gong, Drift, WorkVivo, Casted, and Coda. They need to come up with a problem that they own and where you're really able to create a categorical difference, something completely different from what's out there. What are you against? How are you contrarian to how things are normally? And you also need to name the category and educate people about it. This is work, this takes time, but it might be the right path for some startups. And then finally, strategic narrative seems to be similar to category design, but there's less focus on naming a specific category, and there's more focus on we need one story to rule them all. And it's for investors, and it's for employees, and it's for your sales pitch, etc. It's less about differentiated value and it's more about a movement. There's this old way of doing things versus this new way that we're trying to move towards. So, um, what's my take? What's my take on these? And I had such awesome conversations with each of the experts in each of these domains. So, what's my take? So, let's start with category design. Category design is not for everyone. It feels a bit forced if you're not really creating something categorically different. And for me, as a fractional head of marketing for early stage startups, oftentimes what I do is I start up marketing at these startups. I build the marketing foundation, including positioning, messaging, brand design, website, and go to market strategy. My clients turn to me to help set them on the right path with their positioning, targeting, website, and brand. And oftentimes they'll bring me in before they bring in a salesperson. And oftentimes we nerd out on words. So, am I building a new category? I don't know. I don't think so. Is that still okay? Yeah, I think it is. And by the way, if you disagree, please let me know. Sometimes I get listeners messaging me in Slack or in LinkedIn DMs. They just listen to a podcast episode. They have some thoughts, ideas, stuff like that. And I just love that. So that was category design. Strategic narrative feels more like an investor pitch, and that works well for investors and internal employees to get them really excited about your product building philosophy into the future, but I'm just not sure how helpful that is when you're talking to prospects. I have a quick story. So once we tried to use strategic narrative, the format to build a sales deck with a client that I had. And I just remember it felt sort of unnatural. So we scrapped it and we built something else that felt more natural. It was something that the founders could use when they were pitching, when they were selling. Also, it seems similar. Strategic narrative seems similar to category design, but there's less focus on naming a specific category. And I just talked about the challenge for me personally with category design. So, covered those two. Okay, now what do we have left? Positioning, a focus on my differentiated value for a specific group of customers. This seemed like the best fit approach for me, maybe because it's the one that I'm most comfortable with because I do this work with my clients. I've sort of always used this method for both B2C companies, B2B companies I was at. It just seems to work well. And you can tie your positioning into your sales pitch to win deals. And we talk about how with April in episode 186. But positioning, that doesn't mean it's easy. I'm still trying to nail my own positioning. Maybe it's because I do a lot, as I just, listed out for you guys. I do a lot when I work with early stage startups. In the episode with April, it's episode 186. If you listen to it, you'll hear me talking about my unique insight, which is a lot of early stage companies fail at marketing. It's not really tactical, it's a mindset thing. So, my differentiated value is that startup founders need both marketing help and marketing education. So, I help them learn about marketing as well as help them build a marketing foundation and engine and processes so that they can do a better job of it going forward when I'm not even there, right? Like for hiring and executing. But I'm not quite sure that's it. What I just said is a mouthful. It seems too complicated. I'm just sure that the positioning approach is the one I'm going to use for myself. So for now, I'm just going with a short tagline. I start up marketing at startups. So that's my take. What's your take? If you listen to this bonus episode, I would love to hear from you. Leave me a message on Spotify, shoot me a DM on LinkedIn, and see you next week.